Hi guys, welcome back to Kpopandkurls. My name is Deandra, and today I am going to be teaching you how to learn Korean, how to really learn Korean, because we all had those days where we're like, I'm going to learn the language, yes, but you sit down and you don't know where to start. So I'm going to give you tips, not even tips, life life lessons. I'm going to give you advice on how you should start learning your language, which in this case will be Korean, and you can apply this to any language you want, honestly. This will be a lifesaver in what I wish somebody told me at the beginning of my language learning journey. Just some background, I just completed college. I plan to go teach abroad in South Korea, and I've been studying Korean for 5 years. I am not by any means fluent, but I am still studying, and I'm still, trying to acquire the language. I can speak confidently. If I need to get around in Korea, I know how to do it. If I wanted to say something in a sentence, I don't know, I could do it. If I wanted to talk to a local, not about anything deep, don't talk to me about politics, real estate, no, don't even try. But we're getting there. So I just want to help you guys, especially if you're a beginner, really understand how to acquire this language, because what I do know from these past 5 years is, from my collective efforts of learning and researching, I've learned some key knowledge on how to learn Korean. Without further ado, let's just get into it. Because this video is so in-depth, I will be putting timestamps down below. So first things first, learn Hangul. Learn Hangul. Seriously, learn it. Do not do that whole romanization. Oh my God. I personally hate it. Now, when you are beginning, that is pretty crucial on pronunciation. I can't even pronounce pronunciation, but it's very crucial to learn Hangul, and the romanization will help you kind of get the gist of things, but we'll get later into pronunciation. However, the Korean alphabet is pretty easy to learn. I learned it in a day. Yes, I am not joking. I learned it in a day. I literally sat in my kitchen and I drilled it. Right? You need to be able to produce it. You need to write this out. Know the sounds. So that's that. You can learn Hangul. You can. Do not rely on romanization. Please do not type out a whole sentence on text romanized Korean. It's not cute, and it's not fun, and it's not fun. That's not learning. So you need to actually learn Hangul. So that's the first things first. It's super easy, guys. Super easy. Grammar. Learning the grammatical structure of Korean, learning grammar period, is very, very important if you plan on making sentences. You can say words all day. You can, but it's not helpful to produce an actual good, meaningful sentence. Check. Yogi cha, you can say nomu, but what context is that in? Please tell me, what context is that in? So I'm gonna help you out here. Grammatical books that you need to look at. I actually took Korean in college, and I did it as an elective. It was not my major, but I took it as an elective, and I would have to say that these books really helped in learning grammatical structure. Before I even stepped foot into college, I was learning grammatical structure online. You can get a lot of tips from online, but it's really cool to have a teacher help you. And I know not everybody has access to a teacher. And also, sitting in a classroom can also be seen as kind of controversial, because you're really receiving the language. It's a lot of receptive knowledge, but productive knowledge is kind of like so don't worry, you don't need to sit in a class, you don't need to have a Korean teacher teach you Korean. However, you do need books or some type of page with knowledge to help you really understand the structure of Korean. So with that all being said, these are the two books that I got from my Korean class. Don't look at this other book. Don't judge me. I mean, you got to look at the other book, but don't judge me. The first year of college was trying. I know this is actually really horrible, but this was my book. I actually bought my sister a book too. Hers looks way better than this. But it's called Integrated Korean. This is the beginning. book. Oh god, this just looks so awful. I'm so sorry. But this is the beginning level book, and it starts off with the introduction, what kind of language is Korean, the Hangul, Korean alphabet, the pronunciation rules, which is very important. Very, 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 very important. I'm still learning on pronunciation when I'm speaking in full sentences. You don't want to sound like a robot, and you don't want to sound like a robot. I'm still working on that. So it'll teach you the pronunciation rules, and then we get on to lessons. And if you are a very structured person, this will save your life. We're going to get onto that later, but structure, for me at least, is very important. That's how I receive knowledge effectively and acquire language. And also, this is the second book. This is beginning number 2. I took 4 Korean classes from the very first Korean class was 1001, and then I took it to 2002, and that was my last Korean class that I took. However, I'm still going to learn Korean on my own after I graduated this year. These 2 books will be crucial in helping me re-jog my memory. But same with this book. It starts off with lesson 9, and it goes down from there. They have glossaries in the back, so you can refer to it when you need to translate the English to Korean. I am completely for these books. I thought it was a joke my freshman year. I was like, why are they doing this? I'm actually in the midst of purchasing some more books, so I will have more coming soon, and I'll show you on this channel. But those are the 2 books that I heavily relied on learning Korean in college, and what I'll refer back to when I need a refresher on what I've learned in the past. So moving on to vocabulary, flashcards are very, 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 very important, because without vocabulary, you could not produce any sentences. You don't know what to put any grammatical ending on anything if you don't have a word in your brain to put a grammatical ending on. So here I go. Here, I'm going to help you out. And this isn't even the bulk of it. I have way more flashcards. If I showed them to you guys, like, my whole desk would just be stacked with vocabulary. And I like to color coordinate. It's just fun for me. And man, it's a lot in here. So I would have to hands down tell you guys to make sure you use flashcards. It's very important when learning vocabulary. Alternative to this is just writing it down on a notebook or something like that. Learn words. So flashcards are your best friend. Get flashcards. I'm telling you. You'll thank me later. Here, just take mine. Just take mine. Let's go into note taking. This is really important. My junior year of high school, I was heavily into learning Korean by myself, and then I transitioned into college level learning with Korean. So this is what I did. I had a binder, and this was from the start of high school. This is what I've gathered. This is the knowledge. You see how thick this is? This is not super organized by any means. This is actually pretty bad in terms of organization, but like I said, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm doing better, I'm flourishing. Mind you, this is high school me. Right here, Korean phrases from dramas that I watch, like K-dramas. But I just want to show you that you can print Hangul from the internet. You can print it out, and you can have a chart right here in your binder. I recommend using dividers and also like highlighters to really like organize your stuff. Dividers and sheets to cover these papers and protect them. I also, like I said, I wrote Hangul out. These are 1 syllable like sounds. Here are some of the notes that I've written. So it's a lot of notes in here. Like I said, be organized. It'll help you in the long run. Refer back to what you need to see. I highly recommend getting those tabs that you write on, and refer back to, like, if you need a refresher on grammatical endings, you'll have a tab for it. You can go to the tab. So highly recommend having a designated binder for this. I also had one. This is my college binder, my last semester of college, and no, this was my second to last semester of college, and I was taking Korean. If you have a printer, highly recommend you print stuff out and you highlight, because it's the best way to organize your thoughts. It's the best way to really like receive information without it looking cluttered. Unless you're really good at writing, and the way that you learn is to write it down, it really helps you receive the knowledge. If that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. I like to print and I'll just keep reading over it. So basically I showed you two big binders, and I have this small little book for grammar. It's easy to carry around. If I'm watching a K-drama and I want to jot something down, this goes in here and I'll revisit it later. So that's all for note taking. So next point, engulf yourself in the language. You need to be taking in Korean 24/7. Seriously, 365. Like, it's nonstop. You can't stop this. It has to be ongoing, even to the point where this is a little too much for me at this point that I'm at. I am 5 years into learning Korean, but I also had on and off moments, which I'll discuss in another video. But I could not consistently revolve myself around Korean, which I'm planning to change soon. But people go as far as to change their settings in their phone so it only shows Korean. Everything around you is Korean. On my bed, I have flashcards, and we just got from talking about that. On my bed, I have a flashcard that says chimde because I want to be reminded that that's my chimde. And then chimdebang, that's bedroom. So I would suggest, in my kitchen, it's covered in flashcards. I know that might be a lot for people because they like an aesthetic of a clean, a nice kitchen that doesn't have anything prohibiting the look of the kitchen. On my bathroom, I have hwajangsil. I just put things everywhere. So I'm constantly receiving that information. Another point is to watch K-dramas, and I'm not talking the old, back in the day, because that's not modern. That's not up to what Korean is now, how people use it now. Another really good way to always hear Korean is to watch variety shows. My favorite one is Hello Counselor. I love Hello Counselor. They talk about relevant issues going on in people today, people in Korea. I think it's really cool because the Korean society is very judgy, if you will, and I really like that Hello Counselor is that variety show that lets people talk and let them get out their feelings, and you actually get to hear people from different parts of Korea speak. You get to hear somebody from Busan, Incheon, Daegu, it's Jeju. You can hear everybody come on that show, and you're constantly receiving. I personally recommend that you watch with subtitles, but there's a time where subtitles will become a crutch because you're you're receiving a little bit too much of the written language, and you need to actually learn how to listen. And that's something that I personally need to take into account, is listening more. So I highly recommend that you watch variety shows and K-dramas to fully engulf yourself in the language so you're constantly listening to it. Apps that help with learning Korean. This is so helpful for receptive knowledge, especially in terms of reading. This honestly put me on game for Korean slang and higher level reading. The first app that I can recommend you guys is Beelinguapp. This spring I downloaded this app and I truly love it. It helps you read your language, whether it's Spanish, Japanese, whatever. In this case, Korean. It helped me read Korean alongside listening to audio if I chose to. If I wanted to hear how they say it, how they pronounce that sentence, I could just click it and then I can reproduce it myself. Honestly, get used to speaking. Get used to speaking, seriously, because you can know how to read it, you can know how to write it, but when you eventually go to Korea or you're talking to your friend, how are you going to do that? Are you going to just write it out on a note and then just slide it over to them here, just read this, No, you can't do that. It really helps you grasp how the Korean language is used in articles, journals, and stories. So please check it out. It's been so helpful to me. Another app that I have to give kudos to is Papago. I was using Google Translate like a noob. I was using Google Translate like a noob, and I'm telling you, that's not good. I know people who've been studying language for a while, and if you took college level classes, that people laugh at you when you use Google Translate. So you guys probably know, and probably high school too, you guys probably know that That's not the route you should go. Do not use Google Translate. Sorry, Google, you help with everything else but translation. You cannot directly translate English to Korean. There's ways that it can be manipulated, combined. HelloTalk is a language exchange app that helps you talk to native speakers, and it is so helpful. You guys, get HelloTalk. There's nothing more that needs to be said. If you want to talk to somebody in Korea, if you really want to talk to somebody from Korea because you're learning Korean and you really want to talk to people who know Korean, you should get on the app. And a lot of people like to take it from HelloTalk to Kakao. Be very careful with that, because some people, they just want to talk in English. They just want a friend. They just want to like hook up, and they try and pretend like this is a Tinder, but it's not Tinder. It's learning. It's education. So seriously, get on this app to learn. All right, so let's get into software. So we moved from apps to actual software that you can use on your computer. So this is something that I use. I use Rosetta Stone, Hangul, Rosetta Stone. Do not rely on Rosetta Stone to teach you everything about the Korean language, because it simply cannot, and it does not. What they're gonna do is drill you. They're gonna drill you and constantly tell you to say this sentence, say this word. Pick the picture that the sentence is describing. Pick the picture that goes with this word. So Rosetta Stone is really good for receptive knowledge and production, just with like the sound of it. To learn everything in this little box is just not possible, but I would recommend it if you are serious about learning Korean, to add it into your journey. Nothing's wrong with not having this software. It's completely possible to not have this software and learn Korean, but it is very helpful if you're a structural person and you need something to take you day by day on track and trying to stay with something. This is very helpful for that. Okay, so last point, if you really need structural learning, I'm going to say this. TalkToMeInKorean.com is and has been my best friend for 5 years straight. It's been a while actually since I've went on Talk to Me in Korean. Oh, they had did their website revamp, and every time I would try and get on the website, I could, but I think it's up now. From the last time I checked, it's up. And they have a paid subscription on the website. I think you have to pay for some lessons, but in the very beginning, I didn't pay for nothing. And I still think when I recently went on there that they still have a lot of free lessons. So please, and you can add it to like your shopping cart or whatever, and you can refer back to it later. You have an account. So please go check out Talk to Me in Korean if you need structural learning. They have prints, like printable worksheets that you guys can use. It's so helpful. They talk about anomalies in Korean and things that foreigners would get confused about, or people who don't know Korean, what they would get confused about. So it's so helpful. Next point, my clear textbook, which I got in college, you can get it on Amazon. That helped me go through learning. And honestly, I could have learned through the textbook by myself without my Korean teacher. But again, it's good to learn from a native because it dispels a lot of misconceptions that you have, which helps me move on to my next point. Even though you do not need a teacher to teach yourself Korean, I was really happy to get that experience because it helped me see the differences in learning by myself versus learning in a classroom setting. Pros and cons to learning in a classroom and learning by yourself, which I'll probably do another video on that in the future as a very last resort, because in-person classes can be very, very expensive. Very expensive. And you learned you cannot do this by yourself. I highly recommend that you enroll in a Korean class because they will get you right. My last remarks is you can learn Korean. You just have to eat, breathe, sleep, and Korean. It's easier said than done. After 5 years, I am still not fluent, but I am still on my journey. Do I see myself becoming super fluent at this language? Me personally, that's not my goal. I just want to be able to communicate effectively in whichever way I need to. I don't plan on needing to talk about politics and presidencies and real estate, and like I don't plan on it, but who knows what the future holds. So that's that on that. You have to engulf yourself in the language. It is not possible to one day be fully English or Spanish or what have you, and then turn around and speak Korean for an hour. Like, it just doesn't work like that. This isn't an A day, B day thing. Yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I'll do future videos for you guys if you want them, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.